Hey all, this is David Ducker coming back at you, and today I'm going to be doing a session recap for Return of the Runefangs Part 3! I already recorded this video and went to go play it back, and there's no sound at all, just me gesticulating wildly at the camera. I don't know what was wrong with the microphone, but I recorded this video already. So I'm doing a recap. That was a week ago or 2 weeks ago or something. So I wasn't really gonna recap it, but I had so much fun doing the episode 4 recap. I thought I'd step back in time. So as we join our daring heroes, they're finishing their celebration after capturing Sixtus Jurger, Carlos Hees, and their ship, the Sphinx, as well as rescuing the Colossus, their own ship from House Berengar that they rescued from these dastardly pirates, which would be Sixtus and his Sphinx, the ship, and the slaver who was going to buy the captives, which was Carlos Hees from Marienburg. But as we rejoin the Berengar house, though, they're celebrating. They're at the Three Crowns Inn, which is owned by Sir Lewin. And they're drinking, they're being rather boisterous. The inn's quite packed, despite it being fairly late in the evening. There were members of the most noble order of the Black Bear, which is a knightly order composed entirely of bastards from Averland. Because your last name, if you're a bastard in Averland, is Bear. There are also a bunch of Tylean mercenaries, and several cloaked, hooded figures as well, who are starting to kind of get rowdy with one of the waitresses. But Sir Lewin makes several toasts to House Berengar and to the Emperor and to Sigmar, and again to House Berengar, and he gets into some arm wrestling somehow. He only has one arm, so he can't really have proper technique in arm wrestling. He can't grip someone's hand with his opposite, because he doesn't have an opposite hand. So he can't really do a proper arm wrestling technique. He's always cheating, in effect. But, so that's probably why he won so many arm wrestling matches. I mean, he is also 7 feet tall, but he's 60 years old as well, so those two kind of balance each other out. But as he's making these speeches, and he even calls on Ulrich to make a speech, although Ulrich was a little too drunk to be articulate. He tried, though. But as he's doing this, actually, the brewmaster, who's also working there as a bartender, and he just kind of looks after the place when Lewin is away, gets into it with these hooded thugs who have been feeling up his waitresses. And he tells them to leave. They refuse to leave. I think one of them drew a knife. And he's like, "Oh yeah, make me leave." He holds his hand out with the knife. And the bartender here, who's actually Sir Theodore Lyons, is a knight of the most noble order of the Blazing Sun. He grabs the guy's wrist and he crotches him. He gorilla pressed him and hurls him like a lawn dart right through the nearest window. As he smashes through the leaded glass, and that guy's gone. His friends scatter like roaches. And Sir Theodore's kind of like, "Yeah, that's right. That's what you get." And Lord York invites him over to sit with them, with the Berengar household. And he kind of gets his introduction. So that was the intro scene, essentially, for the new player character. He said he wanted to be a monastic brewmaster, a friar, and let's intro him by having him gorilla press someone, hurl him through the window, gorilla monsoon style. We introed him, and as this is going on, Sir Savage is kind of sitting there, observing the situation, getting a feel for the politics stewing in this room. Actually, I forgot to mention, but everyone else had noticed as well, that Bernard Hostetler is also at the inn, along with Wilhelmina Holloman. Now, Wilhelmina had been courting Sir Ulrich until his face was destroyed in a tournament accident, which is why he wears a veil over his lower face. His jaw is completely destroyed. So when that happened, she left him, and since then she's been courting with Bernard Hostetler, who had been Ulrich's romantic rival. And now that Ulrich's face is destroyed, Bernard has moved right in on his girl. So they're at the inn as well, kind of sharing a sharing some ale, sharing some fine wine rather, a portion of wine, a bottle of wine. So, Sir Sauvage notices, of course Ulrich notices this as well. He's very upset about it. Maybe that's why he's drinking so much. But as all these toasts are going up, after the thugs have been ejected, as all these toasts are going up to House Berengar, Bernard Hostetler kind of gets offended, and he just stands up and he starts to leave. He's like dragging Wilhelmina out of the bar. So they leave. And Sir Sauvage notices that the thugs who had been ejected were still kind of lurking outside in the alley across the street. And when Bernard Hostetler and Wilhelmina Holloman leave, the thugs start to follow them down the street surreptitiously. Sauvage starts to get worried about them. Perhaps, I don't know why, but he heads out into the street and he starts following the thugs who are following Sir Bernard. So eventually it becomes fairly clear that these thugs mean to rob them. One of them has a cudgel, one of them has an axe, and the other has like twin daggers. They're getting ready. They're pulling their hoods up. Sauvage walks up behind them very stealthily. And he lays his hand on the back of one of them, and the magic flows through him, and he commands him to fall asleep. And he does. He face plants right into the alley, and his friends kind of turn around, and they just see Sauvage standing there in his red robes of wizardry, and they move to attack him. Sauvage draws his sword, and he calls out to Sir Bernard. He says, "Bernard, help me! These thugs meant to set upon you." And Bernard turns around. He sees a fellow knight in danger, even though he's not on really friendly terms with him. He still draws his sword and moves to assist. So the thug with the axe, and he's also got a dagger, moves in on Sauvage, while Twin Daggers moves in on Bernard, and the unconscious thug had a cudgel. Which he's now lying on top of. But Sauvage just completely toasted the brigand moving towards him. The brigand, he swung his axe to try and hook Sauvage's ankle and pull him into the dagger or just drop him on the ground. But Sauvage just lifted his foot up, stepped back down, and boom! Fireball! So that guy he was done. He was Kentucky Fried style, and he dropped to the ground. Sauvage looks over, and Sir Bernard is swinging his longsword, and the footpad with the twin daggers just moves to the side, moves back in, stab, and he just stabs Bernard twice. And Bernard goes whoosh, and he swings his sword again, and the footpad just ducks under. Comes back up, stab, and he just stabs Bernard again. And Bernard, he falls against the wall. He starts sliding down the wall. He's leaving a trail of blood. But Sauvage, by this point, he prepared himself another fireball. So boom, and he blasted him. The thug goes flying across the street, and he's just done, toasted. And Sauvage moves in on Sir Bernard, and Wilhelmina is like screaming, and she's like panicking. Is this happening? She's like, "Oh, help, Bernard, no!" And Bernard's like, "Oh, Sauvage, help me!" And he reaches out, and Sauvage is like, "Oh, I'll help you!" And he raises his hands, and they start to glow. It's red hot from within, and he cauterizes the dagger wounds with his hands. And Bernard's like, oh, I changed my mind. Ah! And he's burned to cauterize them, but it did save him though. And then Savage, moves back to the unconscious thug, kind of wakes him up, starts interrogating him, and the thug says, "Oh, we were there, because Savage thinks that he's trying to assassinate Sir Bernard, because these are clearly assassins. The guy with the twin daggers is a professional fighter. The guy with the axe and dagger is clearly a professional as well, and." Savage is asking, why were you sent to kill Bernard? And he's got his glowing hand, and he's like, don't make me cauterize your face. And the thug's will breaks, and he's like, we weren't here for Bernard, we were here for Sir Theodore, for the brewmaster. That's why we were getting a little too friendly with the waitress. We were hoping Theodore would take us out back, and then we could set upon him. But it didn't work, so we decided to just rob Sir Bernard instead when we saw him. So, and Savage is, he's quite clearly convinced that this is the truth of the matter. He's completely intimidated this guy. And then the other Berengars at this point, they're moving back through. They're moving back to Berengar Manor, and Savage manages to catch up with them, and inform them what's going on. And he takes them back to the scene. The guards have started to conglomerate now. They're helping back Bernard and Wilhelmina to their respective manors, and they're clearing away the corpses. And Sir Lewin takes charge of this footpad. They take him back to the Three Crowns, and Sir Lewin and Sir Ulrich torture him a little bit more. And Sir Savage is like, no, I'm quite sure he's told me everything. But Sir Lewin and Sir Ulrich continue to torture him, and eventually they kill him. They don't get any more info out of him, though. But they also tell Sir Theodore, of course, about this, that, why would these guys be trying to kill you? Like, who would be trying to kill you? And Sir Theodore, I don't know. I have no idea why would anyone would try to kill me. So they decide to keep him really close until they can find out exactly what's going on. And then they head back to Berengar Manor, bed down for the night. And on the morrow, Sir Savage meets with one of his contacts, one of his little embers, as he calls them, and this ember, Ferdinand, who is a black market fence, tells him that Countess Darlene Nestel, the Countess of Averland, has been meeting with the Bridge Rats, because Savage wanted to know about the Bridge Rats, since they're the ones he captured Sixtus Jurger from. He's trying to get ransom out of them, perhaps, or at least know if they're going to come after him for capturing Sixtus. He doesn't learn any new info besides that. Ferdinand reinforced that, yes, Sixtus has actually been courting the guild mistress of the Bridge Rats, Lorenzia Edelstein. And, he confirms that the Bridge Rats have been smuggling this drug called the Crimson Embrace, and that they've been engaging in piracy as well. But Savage already knew this. But he thanks Ferdinand, thanks him with gold, which is the best kind of thanks you can give to a man such as Ferdinand. Meanwhile, Ulrich has received an invitation to dinner with that same countess, with Countess Darlene Nestel. He doesn't know why, but he's not at this point very suspicious about it. Perhaps having forgot that Carlos Hees, the captured merchant prince of Marienburg, was traveling through the empire under a writ of safe passage issued by the Countess. But he's not very concerned. He intends to consult with Savage upon his return. And Ulrich actually sets out with Buck Salder, his master at arms, to the old tourney grounds so they can practice his tilting for the upcoming spring tournament, which he previously won 2 seasons ago. Buck's already heard some rumors about Bernard Hostetler being injured last night. He wonders if Ulrich set upon him. He thinks Ulrich is the one who almost killed Bernard Hostetler. Ulrich doesn't really dissuade this opinion either, but Buck says, "Oh, you'll get him next time. You'll get him in the tournament, though." And you'll have your revenge for him stealing your girl like that. Buck's all about the manly revenge, fighting for the sake of fighting. And if you can find the excuse to fight, even better. Buck's, of course, from Kislev, so he's a foreigner. He's very happy that the Berengars have taken him in and elevated him to such a high position in their house, being their master at arms. And I believe, I'm just trying to think if anything else of note happened in this session. Actually, as Ulrich was away tilting, Sir Lewin met up with Sir Sauvage again. Sir Lewin had Sir Theodore in tow, and they moved off to the Iron Tower, where they were storing, where they're keeping imprisoned Sixtus Durger and Carlos Hees. The Iron Tower, of course, is the inescapable prison rising from the center of the River Reich. It is built and maintained by dwarfs. And if there's an inescapable kind of prison, it's a dwarven prison. They don't fool around. But they infiltrated the tower, not surreptitiously, they just entered the tower to interrogate their prisoners. And Sir Lewin went in with Sir Theodore to interrogate Sixtus Jurger, the River Knight, and the bastard son of Gifford Jurger. And Sixtus is like, who are you, this giant who comes calling upon me? And I hope that your intellect is as enormous as your stature. Otherwise, I will end up the one walking free and you in chains, my friend. So he's trying to be very glib with Sir Lewin. And Sir Lewin is just like, "Theodore, hold him." And Sir Theodore grabs him, and he grabs his arm, and he sticks his arm out, and Sir Lewin pulls out this dagger. And Sir Lewin only has one arm, by the way. But somehow, with the help of Sir Theodore, he cuts off Sixtus's ring finger off his left hand. He doesn't tell him why, he doesn't ask him any questions, nothing. He just cuts his finger off, throws it, and they throw him back to the ground, and they just leave him there. So that did shut him up. But they didn't ask him any other questions. And the whole time, Sixtus is yelling at them. He's like, "My father will ransom me. Don't hurt me. My father will ransom me. And there's riches in store for you." And but they don't care. They just cut his finger off and leave. And indeed, they have not yet contacted Gifford Jurger to let him know that his son's been captured, his bastard son, but still his son. And then Lewin goes in to talk to Carlos, and he actually is very friendly to Carlos for some reason. He said, "Oh, are your meals well? Are they giving you wine to drink? Is your bed comfortable? Do you need any books to read?" And so he's very civil with Carlos. So Carlos is praising his mercy, and he sees the holy symbol of Shalia, the goddess of mercy, around his neck. And he's like, "Oh, yes, of course, a worshipper of Shalia should be kind and benevolent to me." Meanwhile, 2 cells over, Sixtus is there, my finger. And also, the previous night, Lewin had tortured this footpad to death. He cut his foot off, and I think they stripped him naked first, and then they flogged him and started cutting his extremities off, starting with his feet, which was so. Meanwhile, but the next day, Carlos was like, "Oh yeah, as a follower of the goddess of mercy and pacifism." So where Lewin's actual pious leanings lie is anyone's guess at this point. But that was pretty much where we left off, and that leads us in very nicely to session 4, which I've recorded before I recorded this one. I usually try to record them right after we play them. So no doubt I've forgotten some significant details, but that's where we're at in the story so far. And I'm going to sign out now. I hope that this is slightly entertaining, and I hope you look forward to the future videos.